Have you ever noticed how the moment you let go, the energy shifts? How suddenly, the very person who overlooked you begins to wonder where you've gone. There is something deeply magnetic about walking away. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with quiet certainty. It's not the stomp of a door slammed shut or the sharp edge of final words. No, it's softer than that, more powerful than that. It's the silence that says, I know my worth, and I no longer need to prove it to you. We often think attraction is built in pursuit, in chasing, convincing, showing someone why we are enough. But the truth is, attraction deepens when you step back. When you no longer fight to be seen, your absence begins to speak louder than all your explanations ever could. Walking away creates a mirror, and in that mirror, the other person is forced to see what your presence once offered: stability, warmth, love, devotion, things they might have mistaken as permanent. But when those things disappear, not out of punishment, but out of self-respect, the reality hits differently. And here's the paradox. Walking away is attractive not because of what it does to them, but because of what it does to you. It shifts your energy from seeking to standing, from hoping to knowing, from waiting to rising. This isn't about manipulation. It isn't about making someone chase you. It's about reclaiming your center. And when you do, something changes in the way you carry yourself. Your energy becomes calm, unshaken, radiant. You no longer look outward for validation. And that kind of sovereignty has a glow no one can ignore. By the end of today's message, you'll understand why walking away isn't just an ending, it's an opening. Why silence can be more seductive than words. And why the most attractive thing you'll ever do in love is not beg to be chosen, but choose yourself first. So stay with me. Because if you've ever wondered why stepping back makes them step forward, this will be the key to understanding the hidden power of walking away. When you walk away, it doesn't register immediately. At first, they may not notice. They may even believe you're still there, still waiting, still available whenever they decide to reach out. But slowly, like a shadow stretching across the room, the truth begins to reveal itself. It starts in the smallest ways. A conversation that feels colder without your warmth. A day that feels longer without your presence. Your silence lingers. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady. And in that silence, something shifts. You see, people often mistake consistency for permanence. They think your devotion is endless, your patience infinite. They assume you'll always answer, always forgive, always bend. But when you no longer do, when you rise and step back into your own center, the absence hits differently. It's not just that you're gone. It's that the energy you once gave so freely is no longer within reach. And here's what makes it powerful. You didn't walk away to punish. You walked away to preserve. You didn't leave in anger. You left in truth. And truth carries a frequency that cannot be ignored. Suddenly, your absence becomes the loudest presence in their world. The laughter they once overlooked now echoes in memory. The care they brushed aside becomes a haunting reminder of what they lost. And while they may not admit it aloud, their soul feels the void. Because what left wasn't just a person. It was the sacred energy of love freely given, of support endlessly offered. And when that energy withdraws, it leaves a silence too powerful to deny. This is why walking away is attractive. Not because it creates fear of losing you, but because it forces them to see the truth of what you always were. And it reminds you that you were never dependent on their recognition. You were the light all along. At first, they try to brush it off. They tell themselves you'll be back, that this is just another quiet moment, another pause in the rhythm of your connection. They rely on the old pattern. You always returned, always softened, always gave them one more chance. But this time is different. This time your absence carries a different weight. It doesn't feel like waiting. It feels like ending. And the more they sit with that silence, the more they begin to feel its edges pressing in. Suddenly, the things they once ignored now resurface. The way you checked in, the way your voice brought calm to their chaos, the way you held space when no one else did. It comes back to them, not as a sweet memory, but as an ache, a reminder of what they didn't value when it was theirs. Here is the truth. Absence is not empty. It is full of everything that once existed. Every word you spoke, every moment you gave, every effort you made, now lingers in the quiet like an echo. And echoes have a way of haunting. They may distract themselves, they may try to fill the void with noise, with others, with movement. But none of it lands. None of it feels the same. Because what's missing isn't just a person, it's a presence. And presence can't be replaced. This is why walking away is so powerful. Not because it makes them suffer, but because it forces them into awareness. Awareness of what was overlooked. Awareness of what was taken for granted. Awareness of the sacred energy you once poured into them without question. And here's the paradox. Your absence doesn't just teach them, it transforms you. As they wrestle with what they've lost, you step deeper into what you found, yourself. Walking away isn't just about leaving someone behind. It's about returning to yourself. For so long, you may have poured love outward, waiting for it to circle back, believing that patience or sacrifice would eventually be rewarded. But there comes a sacred moment when you realize love was never meant to be earned through suffering. In that moment, something shifts. You stop reaching, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've started remembering. Remembering that your value doesn't depend on how much you're chosen. Remembering that your worth was never defined by how much you were needed. This is where the glow begins. Not in revenge, not in hoping they'll notice, but in reclaiming your light. Walking away teaches you that self-respect is magnetic. Confidence isn't loud. It's calm, steady, unwavering. When you choose yourself, your energy changes. You stop bending, and in doing so, you rise. And here's the truth no one tells you. Attraction isn't found in how much you give, but in how much you embody. When you embody self-worth, you become undeniable. People feel it when you walk into a room. They sense it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you no longer chase, in the way your silence speaks louder than words. This is why walking away is so attractive, because it reveals a version of you that isn't waiting to be chosen. You already chose yourself. And nothing is more magnetic than someone who knows their own value. So while they may wrestle with your absence, you're not waiting for their realization. You're rising into remembrance. And that rise is the very thing they'll never forget. When you walk away, something begins to unravel inside of them. At first, they resist it. They tell themselves they're fine, that they never needed you, that they can move on without looking back. But deep down, in the quiet places they don't admit to anyone, your absence begins to whisper truths they can't escape. The truth that your presence was never ordinary. The truth that the space you held wasn't just comfort, it was rare. The truth that while they were delaying, doubting, or avoiding, you were offering something sacred. And now, that offering is gone. They replay old moments. Your laughter, your patience, the way you could see through their defenses. They remember how effortless it was to lean on you, even when they never said thank you. They realize, perhaps for the first time, that what they lost was not just a person, but a sanctuary. And it's in that realization that attraction deepens. Not because you're trying to make them miss you, but because they finally see the truth of what was always there. They see the difference between attention and presence, between anyone and you. But here's the key. Your walking away isn't for them. Their awakening isn't your responsibility. Whether they rise into it or collapse under it, that's their journey. The real transformation is yours. Because while they are haunted by the echo of your absence, you are nourished by the fullness of your return to self. Walking away isn't about making them chase. It's about no longer chasing yourself. And that shift creates a gravity they cannot ignore. Here is the moment of truth. Walking away was never really about them. It was about you. It was about breaking the cycle of self-sacrifice you once mistook for love. For too long, you may have believed that giving more would finally make them see you. That patience would earn their commitment. That dimming yourself would somehow inspire them to shine brighter. But walking away is the moment you realize that story was never yours to carry. You don't walk away because you've stopped loving. You walk away because you've stopped abandoning yourself. You release the illusion that shrinking equals devotion, that silence equals loyalty, that waiting equals strength. And in that release, you return to your own wholeness. This choice is not bitter. It is not spiteful. It is sacred. It says, I will no longer trade my truth for someone else's comfort. I will no longer bleed my energy into places that cannot hold it. And here's the paradox. The moment you choose yourself, the attraction shifts. Not because you've closed your heart, but because your heart has become rooted. You stand taller, not to prove anything, but simply because you're no longer carrying what isn't yours. This is why walking away is magnetic. It isn't about withholding love. It's about embodying love for yourself so deeply that anything less than truth can no longer exist in your space. And should they return, it will not be to the person who once sacrificed herself. It will be to someone who has transformed in her silence, someone who knows her worth and will never forget it again. There is a certain radiance that comes when you walk away. It is not the glow of revenge, not the fleeting shine of trying to prove someone wrong. No, it is deeper. It is the glow of self-remembrance. For the first time in a long time, you are no longer stretching yourself thin, no longer chasing validation outside of you. Your energy, once scattered, begins to return home. And that return changes everything. You begin to carry yourself differently. Your steps are lighter, your gaze steadier, your voice calmer. You no longer speak to convince. You no longer move to be noticed. You no longer bend to be chosen. Instead, you exist in the fullness of who you are, and that kind of presence cannot be ignored. People feel it before you even say a word. They sense the sovereignty in your energy. They notice the serenity in your silence. And here's the paradox. The less you try to be attractive, the more magnetic you become. Because real attraction doesn't come from effort. It comes from alignment. When you align with your own worth, when you remember your wholeness, you shine without trying. And that shine calls in everything that matches it. Opportunities, people, connections, love. Walking away is attractive because it transforms you from seeker to sovereign. You are no longer searching for love outside of you. You are embodying it. And in that embodiment, you become radiant. This glow is not temporary. It cannot be dimmed by rejection, silence, or absence, because it doesn't depend on them anymore. It comes from within you. And once you light that fire, it burns for a lifetime. When you walk away, it doesn't just change you. It changes them. Not immediately, not in the way stories often promise with instant regret and dramatic chases, but in quiet, unsettling ways that unravel slowly over time. At first, they try to fill the space. They distract themselves, surround themselves with noise, seek validation in fleeting connections. But none of it carries the same weight. None of it holds the same depth. Because what they lost wasn't just a companion, it was a mirror, a reflection of what they could have been if they had chosen to rise. Your absence confronts them with themselves. Without your energy to soften their edges, they feel their own roughness. Without your patience to cover their delays, they face the emptiness of their excuses. Without your devotion to fill the silence, they finally hear their own avoidance echoing back at them. And here's where the transformation begins. Pain becomes teacher. The very absence they once dismissed now forces them to see what they could not when you stood before them. They may never admit it out loud, but in the quiet, they remember. They remember the way your energy felt like home. They remember the safety of your presence. They remember the sacred steadiness of your love. And in remembering, they are faced with a choice: remain the same or awaken. This is the hidden power of walking away. It is not meant to change them, yet it often does. Not because you pushed, not because you pleaded, but because you stepped into truth, and truth has a ripple effect that cannot be ignored. Walking away becomes the silent catalyst, and whether they rise through it or not, you've already transformed, and that is the most attractive part of all. Walking away can feel heavy at first. The pull of attachment, the memories, the hope that maybe they'll finally change, all of it tugs at your heart. But with every step you take back toward yourself, you begin to realize something profound. This isn't loss. This is liberation. You are not walking away from love. You are walking away from the illusion that love meant shrinking yourself, silencing your truth, or waiting endlessly for someone to meet you halfway. You are walking away from the version of you that believed your worth depended on their recognition. And as that illusion falls away, you rise. You discover that peace tastes sweeter than patience drained. That freedom feels better than begging for crumbs. That wholeness within yourself was always more nourishing than the half-love you were given. Here lies the paradox. Walking away doesn't close your heart. It expands it. Because for the first time, your love is no longer bound to suffering. It is no longer tied to waiting. It is no longer trapped in proving. It becomes free, full, sovereign. And that freedom is what makes walking away so attractive. Not in the sense of making them chase, but in the way your energy begins to glow differently. People feel it. They notice the calm in your presence, the quiet certainty in your spirit. You radiate a truth that cannot be faked. I am whole on my own. This is not bitterness. This is not rejection. This is remembrance. And remembrance is liberation. Because the truth is, walking away doesn't mean you stopped loving them. It means you started loving yourself enough to choose peace over sacrifice, truth over illusion, and freedom over fear. And nothing is more magnetic than a soul set free. Walking away creates a mirror. On one side is you, standing in your worth, remembering your light, rising into wholeness. On the other side is them, suddenly confronted with the reflection of what they once dismissed, avoided, or failed to hold. For you, the mirror is a reminder. You were never incomplete. You were never lacking. Your love was never weak. It was sacred. Walking away showed you that choosing yourself isn't abandonment, but alignment. That silence isn't emptiness, but truth. That absence isn't rejection, but reclamation. For them, the mirror is different. It is humbling, sometimes painful. It reveals the depth of what your presence meant. It shows them the weight of what they lost, not as punishment, but as consequence. It forces them to see themselves more clearly, the delays, the excuses, the ways they mistook devotion for permanence. And here's where attraction deepens. It's not rooted in longing for what you once were. It's rooted in the recognition of who you've become. You are no longer the one who bent, who waited, who sacrificed. You are the one who rose. And that rise is impossible to ignore. Walking away is attractive because it doesn't just transform how they see you. It transforms how you see yourself. You no longer look at love through the lens of need. You see it through the lens of choice. And when love becomes a choice, not a necessity, it gains a different kind of power. In this mirror, both of you are given an invitation. For you, it is the call to embody sovereignty. For them, it is the chance to awaken. And whether they take it or not, your journey continues, brighter, freer, stronger. Walking away creates a mirror. On one side is you, standing in your worth, remembering your light, rising into wholeness. On the other side is them, suddenly confronted with the reflection of what they once dismissed, avoided, or failed to hold. For you, the mirror is a reminder. You were never incomplete. You were never lacking. Your love was never weak. it was sacred. Walking away showed you that choosing yourself isn't abandonment, but alignment. That silence isn't emptiness, but truth. That absence isn't rejection, but reclamation. For them, the mirror is different. It is humbling, sometimes painful. It reveals the depth of what your presence meant. It shows them the weight of what they lost, not as punishment, but as consequence. It forces them to see themselves more clearly, the delays, the excuses, the ways they mistook devotion for permanence. And here's where attraction deepens. It's not rooted in longing for what you once were. It's rooted in the recognition of who you've become. You are no longer the one who bent, who waited, who sacrificed. You are the one who rose. And that rise is impossible to ignore. Walking away is attractive because it doesn't just transform how they see you. It transforms how you see yourself. You no longer look at love through the lens of need. You see it through the lens of choice. And when love becomes a choice, not a necessity, it gains a different kind of power. In this mirror, both of you are given an invitation. For you, it is the call to embody sovereignty. For them, it is the chance to awaken. And whether they take it or not, your journey continues, brighter, freer, stronger. So here we are, at the heart of it all. Walking away was never the end. It was the beginning, the rebirth of your sovereignty, the remembrance of your worth, the glow of a love that no longer needs permission to exist. What once looked like silence was actually your soul speaking the loudest truth. I deserve more. What seemed like distance was not rejection, but protection, the universe pulling you back into alignment with yourself. And what felt like loss has revealed itself to be liberation. This is why walking away is attractive, because it is not a tactic. It is not manipulation. It is not about making someone chase you. It is about stepping so deeply into your own power that your energy shifts the world around you. It is about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and love for yourself above all else. And in that choice, everything changes. You no longer beg to be seen. You no longer wait to be valued. You no longer bend for someone who will not rise. Instead, you stand, calm, radiant, whole. And here is the paradox. When you stop chasing, what is meant for you begins to chase you. When you stop proving, what is real begins to reveal itself. When you stop sacrificing, love transforms from performance into truth. So if you've ever felt overlooked, unseen, or unappreciated, let this be your reminder. Walking away is not weakness. It is strength. It is not loss. It is alignment. It is not the end of love. It is the beginning of real love, the kind that starts with you. Take a deep breath and let these words anchor in your spirit. I am whole. I am worthy. I am love itself. If this message resonates with you, type this in the comments as an affirmation. My walking away was my awakening. Because it's true, the most magnetic, attractive, undeniable version of you has always been the one who remembers her worth. And now you do. Your glow is rising. Let it shine unapologetically.